Okay guys, this is gonna be a session for me. Okay, घूम गया फिर से. This is gonna be a session of me recapping a a day of price action in gold and answering some doubts related to it. वो मैसेज मिल जाए मैं मार चला दूंगा. Okay, yes, and this was the day. And so going into this day, many people were confused why I was trying to frame shorts 8th 8th of July when the previous day looked bullish, right? Yes, it looked completely fine having a protected swing to overside, so this you would assume as a protected level, and this is daily chart, but Friday's daily candle would not be visible on the daily chart due to the fact it was a bank holiday. If you look for the daily chart on 24-hour chart, which is daily but shows the Friday's daily candle as well, then you can see a manipulation taking place in respect to this. This is more of a bullish framework, which tells you till there, right? Two answers, right? Manipulation of fair. So this being the objective, and even if we just use it on the daily, previous day high being the relevant level, or you can use IRL to ERL framework. So even if you don't use 24-hour chart, valid framework, but every framework has its own invalidations as well. If you would have wanted to frame launch, would have wanted price to stay in respect to this EQ level, stay in the upper half, right? So that wasn't the case. And at the same time, if you look at other assets, ये ट्यूसडे है. मैंने किसको देखा है? Monday. This is showing Tuesday as well, but just give me a second. This is Monday. Nothing much from this. Okay, I used framework from XAUR and gold as well. दोनों कैसे बैक हो गए? Okay. At the same time, XAUUR is opening in close proximity to the same relevant swing. This same Thursday, 3 July, Thursday, 3 July, right? Which I am gonna be targeting on gold. XAUUR correlated pair is opening in close proximity to this high. So I'm putting in emphasis on the correlated pair as well to see how it reacts there, right? How it reacts there to then frame gold accordingly, like how I just did with NQ and ES. Used ES previous day high level, but that level was a kind of different. Now in this case we are using the same level, right? One thing, gold's own invalidation and the correlated pairs framework, two things which you have to like pay attention to. Like going into this day, I would be having two plans. Like if XAUR shows me kind of manipulation over this high, then I would be short biased, right? But gold being comparatively weaker, my preference would be gold, right? My preference would be gold because it also has a protected high as well. If you have a look here, so not too convincing of the framework to both sides, but going to the, I would think long initially, but I would pay attention to the correlated pair as well, like what it would be doing here. And if it displaces through here, then I would just assume it is not paying any relevance to this level. Then it is trying to frame a continuation over it. Then I would frame gold till its objective. Obviously aligning with the validations and invalidations, but I want to see how the correlated pair react to this swing. If it shows manipulation, I would instead try to short gold. If it shows kind of failure to manipulate that swing, then I would anticipate this as the draw in this. Okay, now let's talk just about gold's framework. We talked about previous day's EQ level for invalidation. When we go on to the day, enough of a framework to think long, 100% valid, 100% valid, clean manipulation of a relevant swing. Right? But okay, I would mark it later. If you see how the day formed at this moment, you can already see the EQ getting displaced through this EQ of previous day high level, right? This is a mixture of 2 days candle. So like this day is clubbed as well into it. Like this is the previous day high level, which is not there. So do 2 days of price action. Friday being a bank holiday, that's why Friday is clubbed into this day's range. But this is the right EQ. You can clearly see price displacing through that EQ level, having a 4 hour close through it. So I could anticipate this reversal not holding. And at the same time, if you pay attention to what the plan was made on the correlated pair, we can clearly see it reversing off of the relevant swing, the same relevant swing I would have been targeting in gold. So now this is a SMT backed by displacement away from it. Can you frame a clear reversal of a pair to its objective? 100% yes. So then we can assume this SMT as a true SMT followed by displacement, right? And SMT at a relevant level, that is one of the thing. Now this being SMT, and now the levels responsible to sponsor the move lower would be these failure swings. Now if you think in terms of protected swing and relevant swing, this is protected, right? This high. Then the next relevant swing responsible for a move lower would be this, right? Enough space between them, a protected high could form here. Add in the SMT, this is good of a framework. Now still staying cautious about the fact that there is still a good framework to long. So would be waiting, I was personally waiting for this long idea to get invalidated. I had the bearish framework, I was already able to see it, but I was still wanting if the bullish framework to get invalidated completely, and the daily candle being small wick, so I can have my full targets, I can frame my full targets the same day. Okay, so all this was for narrative. Now comes the entry part, which is the last. Now many people asked me, were concerned there was a clean low time frame entry in here around 9 a.m. and why I did not take it, and why I was still waiting for 10 a.m. open high low close. I did share it as well, 8 July. All time high for equal low, sure. Hmm. Like wanted to frame shorts to previous day low in gold after 10 a.m., not before it. Previous day low eventually gets it, and there was an entry around there prior to 10 a.m. and many people were asking me why I wasn't much okay taking this and why I did let it go, as my main focus, my main emphasis, my main focus, my main everything is narrative, high time frame narrative, then entry models. Entry model wise, too good, but do I have conviction, proper conviction at this time? No. And let me tell you why. Because even if you wanted to go higher off of there, 10 a.m. sweeping this, immediately returning back inside the range, back above this EQ level, this would still be valid framework to go long off of this previous day's reversal. So the long framework wasn't totally invalidated as well at the time. So 10M could have formed a long framework for the previous day's reversals or today's continuation over here, right? So I was wanting to see if, okay, I already have an idea, like EQ is almost on the verge of being disrespected. But if 10 a.m. immediately returns back inside the range, that would be a wick on the higher time frame, right? So that is EQ staying intact. But if 10 a.m. does not show me any sign of returning back and displacing through it, then I would be much more confident with this as my draw, previous day low. So almost everything for high time frame narrative, last thing is entry model, right? People focus too much on SMT, this narrative first, then use everything in your यार मैंने मार्शल in your align high time frame ideas alignment मैंने मार्शल ने म्यूट करूंगा इन लोगों को. So now if we get there on the lower time frame, let me show you the framework for XAU. You are at the same time. You can use this to your advantage as well. Still telling you, like even if after taking out that relevant swing, even if it wanted to go higher, this looked a valid framework to go higher, right? EQ of previous day's range obviously staying intact, kind of candidate for daily open no I close. Then you would want it to immediately go there, right? And not reject off of this. So everything aligns for the short idea, right? You're not expected to do this. Now it is a continuation to this reversal here. That's how I validate, I invalidate some of my idea, or how I wait. Yes, this looked valid, but it was a discretionary decision to not take a shot in here. There was one, yes. Manipulation of this high. यार मेरे separators कहाँ है? Okay. Manipulation of this high SMT with their plain manipulation, yes. But EQ levels still staying intact. This is the previous day's EQ level. कुछ ज़्यादा बड़ा नहीं होगा. So price is logically 100% okay to reverse off of here while staying in respect to the previous day's EQ. But I could have considered at this moment, like if it wanted to go higher, it should have gone from here. Maybe it could have been considered, but sometimes it would do another sweep as well because EQ is still in staying intact, and then align it with the next 4 hour opening. So 4 hour setting the proper direction for one. So I wanted the 4 hour to be in alignment with my direction. Yes, this looked valid. Okay, you can consider this failure to manipulate here, but then what becomes the draw? This. So 10 a.m. if wanted could have framed a reversal of a where while staying in respect to the previous day's EQ level. So this maybe you can take half risk, but I told myself I still have enough of a room if I'm taking previous day low as my objective because I'm not targeting any random level. It's the clean daily levels from the daily chart. So still enough room that a continuation entry could form and I could get a worthy RR trade. So I'm not so worried about missing out on this, right? More so focused on narrative and wanting to see if this previous day's bullish idea gets invalidated. This could be used as a framework and maybe half risk entry. Yes, kind of. But then 10 a.m. opens up this breakthrough. I do not want to say 10 a.m. immediately reject back inside because that would be the case and that would be the last line of support if the day wanted to go higher, right? So I'm wanting to see price displace through this low, then I would think of framing entry. 10 a.m. just opens and drops, and now my idea is more. I do have much more conviction that previous day low is a draw and EQ is obviously being disrespected, you can see these orly candles completely displacing through it, right? So not so worried about any bullish criteria. I'm just now waiting for everything I have done for the item frame is already done, every step narrative. Now just the entry part. So I'm waiting for a high which I can trust to trade away from and towards the objective. Enough ranged opposing candle or a sweep of another high. Enough ranged clean closer through or a sweep of another high. Basically, just two main criteria I use for entries, which I never got after 10 a.m. And so this was a discretionary decision because if 10 a.m. wanted, it would have made this framework valid. EQ was around there, a candidate of manipulation below this low. If 10 a.m. immediately returns back, I was wanting to see 10 a.m. not return back inside and start to displace lower. We can do we can do what is in our hands and not predict. So that would pay us in the long term. So 10 a.m. never gave me anything much. Last thing I was wanting, please give me manipulation over this high. Last moment I could get an entry, but never got it. So I did let it go. I would say 10 on 10 breakdown, 10 on 10 walkthrough, and 10 on 10 for how I framed it, how I avoided it, and how I used my discretion, and 10 on 10 for not forcing any bad entry. It was just market which never gave me any entry, and 10 on 10 for not breaking any rules out of desperation to trade. So overall, a 10 on 10 day framed. So both of the doubts would have been answered by this breakdown. I can do what I am supposed to do without expecting market to do or to go in my favor. If I am doing what I am supposed to do, I do not need to care. Job was done the right way, so zero regrets. I am instead happy for this day. Yes, I did miss on too good of a framework, but no worries. That framework saves me from unnecessary losses as well. This was the idea, was wanting to see 10 a.m. towards previous low. Never got an entry, so no execution as well. UDBI was also making like wanting to see it react off of the previous day's EQ if it want to go higher, which it wasn't. Manipulation of the same relevant string again, but I incorporated the correlated pairs framework and this pairs invalidation of bullish framework. Nice experience, I would say. Any more doubts if you have regarding this idea, you बदतमीज ask दिशांत भाई जिनका डाउट था वो खुद ही नहीं है. अगला क्या था मेरे को बताओ. अच्छा ये तो इसी हफ्ते गया ना. Any more doubts brother, or is it clear? Not only previous day's EQ, but me delaying the entry that was based off of previous day's EQ. But for framing short idea, previous day's EQ wasn't the only factor. Like I gave relevance to the correlated assets as well. I once told you, UTY, I don't use correlation the same way as everybody uses. I go very deeply into it because it helps me as well. PP hit, nice. पर मेरा इंटरनेट नहीं हिट. अच्छा आपने वाईएम पे लिया था, उन्होंने ईएस पे ये लिया था ये लिया था या यहाँ पे ऐसे एग्जीक्यूट मारा किसी और फ्रेमवर्क लिया ये था. 932 पे रिकॉर्ड लिया था. 932 breakout, bad entry. Valid if you take it there immediately. Once it expands this much, I don't wanna see it come back this much. This is not favorable. Even though it worked, you can see a worthy price action, a non-worthy price action, high resistant conditions. If you would have executed there, then this was valid holding with your stop loss there. But once it comes back this much to your entry, I would not prefer to take limit order there, as once price is in a expansion mode to me, only then I am framing my entries. And if it is in expansion mode, I won't expect too deep retracements. I could expect a consolidation there to sweep out a low here. I could expect a retracement here to maximum come like here. I would not expect after it expands till there to return all the way. You took it good, but I won't. This looked 100% valid here. Displacing through it, showing lack of willingness to return back inside 930, forming true breakout, executing immediately there, stop there. Then you could hold through all of this because you framed it when the framework was good. Now, I won't go off topic. If you people have any more doubts regarding this goals breakdown, tell me, or I would end the recording and start the next session. And this way, stack experiences about how I frame, how I validate my ideas, how I invalidate. Like the next session would be about CLRBHO, for which I did an in-depth outlook session on this Friday for Monday, for exactly telling for what I would be looking, where I would be looking, and how I would frame it. And I did like not exactly, but 90% of the things were same as how I told it in Friday's outlook session for CLRBHO. Like how I just explained the correlated assets logic on gold and XAUUR, same thing I did explain in live time beforehand for today's trading session 2 days ago. I would explain it as well. Tell me if any more doubts for gold. कौन था दिशान में? Okay, no worries. Screen recording would be available. चांद भाई को जल्दी दे देंगे. नहीं यार, अपलोड ही नहीं करूँगा, जल्दी कैसे दे देंगे? Okay, now I would end the recording here. Let's get into the next session. Okay, have a good day.